First off, we're going to talk about heavy riding versus light riding. You see, I heard it the most in English circles, but also amongst flat track race jockeys and things like that. Somebody would say, well, that guy rides really heavy or that gal rides really light. And they didn't mean heavy-handed. They were talking about whether you were actually riding heavy or riding light. And so what exactly does that mean? What's going on riding heavy or riding light? And what difference does that make? So I could get real technical about what exactly is going on, but everybody likes my homespun nonsense, so I'm just going to do it that way. This is the way it is in my head, and this is when I'm trying to ride heavy or ride light, this is what I think about. So when you're riding heavy, you're riding your saddle. And you can think about it, any of you surfers or skateboarders out there, it kind of works the same way. When you're surfing, you push against the board and the board pushes against the water, and that's what keeps you on. The same with skateboarding, you push against the board pushes against the ground, and that's what keeps you on that board. So when you're riding heavy, you're pushing against the saddle, and the saddle's pushing against the horse, and the horse is pushing against the ground. And pushing against that saddle like that is what keeps you on. A lot of people ride that way and don't mean to, and it's just because they're not very good riders. And it will hurt the horse. It'll make your back sore too, but it will hurt their back first. Their back will get sore long before yours will. But that's what's going on when you're riding heavy, is you're riding your saddle instead of riding your horse. So why would you ever want to do that? I just said that's bad riding, but why would you ever want to do it? Well, there's times when I do want to do it. There's times when I'm riding something pretty squirrely and I'm purposely trying to push against my saddle so it'll push against them, so they have to push against the ground to wear them out, to physically wear them out faster, just to put more physical pressure on their body and wear them out faster. And once I feel like they've kind of gotten the dose that they need, then I can go to riding light and softening them up throughout their body and so on and so forth. There's other times in my life, especially on the ranch, where there was something that was 5, 6, 7 years old that thought it was pretty tough because it had 5 or 6 notches in its belt, and that's, unless it's a colt, if I'm on a ranch, that's when I get an aged horse, is when it's got several notches in its belt. Here, Brett can ride him. Those are times when I will purposely ride heavy. And a horse like that, like what I'm talking about, something that's got a history, an older horse, I might ride that son of a gun heavy all day, day in and day out for a while, and just push against him and push against him. Like I said, I'm purposely trying to wear that horse out. I'm purposely trying to make that horse sore for the sake of it throwing up the red flag. Horses like that have usually been those older horses that kind of have some notches. They've been argued with, they've been fought with, they've been wrestled, they've been jerked on, kicked on, spurred on, cussed at. And anytime you go to doing that, they go, ding, 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 it's time to go. They know how to fight. And so with those big old tough horses like that, I don't fight them. I just refuse to fight them. And it's hard to do because I'm only 160 pounds, but I use my 160 pounds and I push against them all day for as long as I can stand it, for as many days as I can stand it, and wear them out physically and mentally without ever fighting with them, without ever pulling on them, without ever getting them to rise up and fight against me. And you can get a lot done that way on those old tough horses. You can get a lot done riding heavy, and when they are kind of starting to finally give, then you can lighten up your seat and go ahead, and at that point you're mostly trying to make a deal, but you can make whatever deal you're going to make at that point. So there's a reason to ride heavy. Now, riding heavy is riding your saddle, not your horse. Riding light is riding your horse, not your saddle. That means what everybody's always saying when they say riding with feel. That is understanding the biomechanics of your horse and how it moves and where it can and can't move, what is physically and what is not physically possible for it to do at any gait, at any time, and riding that horse where you want him to be, not where he is right now. and riding him in time and riding your body in tune with his body. And then really that saddle is only there for his comfort and for your comfort, to distribute your weight evenly across his back, and to give you someplace more comfortable to sit than his back, because that's not very comfortable directly on their back, bareback. Unless you got a super fat horse, then it's still not that comfortable. So that's why you want to ride light, because it's good riding. It's good for their back. It's way better for your back too, but it's good for their back. It's good for their mechanics. And when you ride light, then they are able to drive their hind end up under their body. They're able to shift their weight back onto their hindquarters and around their back. And then we have a collected horse. That's what everybody's always looking for. Everybody pulls on their head, tries to get their head down. That's frame, not collection. But when you ride light, then you liberate the horse's body to where it can collect its body and then frame its head, which is what we want it to look like. And so that's the advantage of riding light. It's better for your horse. It's better riding all the way around. And once you learn how to ride real well, even one that is kind of squirrely, you can ride them through it. But so for those of you that watch this that are young riders or new riders or just relatively inexperienced riders, check yourself when you're riding. Are you riding light or are you riding heavy? Are your knees really sore after you get off because your knees are old and not used to being in that position, bent at that angle? Or are your knees really sore because you're pressing really hard against your stirrups riding heavy? I know when I ride one heavy on purpose, my knees get really sore, and I've never jogged a day in my life unless I was being chased by something. Is your lower back really sore? Well, is your lower back really sore because your abdomen isn't strong enough, and you have back problems or whatever? Or is your lower back really sore because you're pressing your weight down against that horse? Those are some things that you can look for in your own body when you get off. Is this because I'm old and I didn't stretch enough, or is this because I'm not riding very well? It could be a little of both, but there's a good chance it's because you're not riding well. And so think about that when you're riding. Am I riding my horse or am I riding my saddle?